Okay, so this case study was all about Jamie Turner, who had been kind of hopping around jobs, but he seemed to be doing well, climbing up the corporate ladder, so to say, and was presented with opportunity to work as a VP of marketing for MLI under the president, Pat Cardullo. He was impressed with Pat. He met him at the interviews and such and felt like he had a good rapport with him. And then once he was hired on, things started out okay. And then things just kept getting piled on him. He got more responsibility than what he wanted. And then kind of Cardullo was kind of avoiding him, as well as the controller lady kind of was taking Cardullo's side, and Cardullo was reversing decisions that Jamie had been making, and the company had been seeing not so great profits, and so that was one of the reasons that they wanted to bring Jamie Turner on, was to help turn things around. But it didn't seem as though Pat Cardullo was really giving him the opportunity to do that with trying any of his proposals or strategies, and by also just throwing more workload on him than what was originally intended. So now we're kind of at the point where Jamie's been wanting to have a conversation with Pat about how things are going and how they need to try and get on the same page with things before the CEO, Alan Oliver, comes to visit. And then that's where we're at. So what do you guys think were the root problems in this case?
For me, I mean, it was for this case, it was kind of confusing to me because I didn't feel like there was most of the other ones are blatantly obvious. Right. This one's the problem. Mm-hmm. For this one, I don't necessarily think that. I really don't know who's at fault. I would say that I would almost put more of the blame on Cardullo. I don't think that the main guy, I don't remember what his name was, he did much, but probably just communication. I don't think that there was as much communication other than the interview of what he wanted to happen. And he was just kind of enticed by the offer that Cardullo made, so he went for it. But like I said, this one I had a hard time pinning down what exactly was the problem compared to other cases.
I would agree with that, with the communication. It said in there too that when he went to go interview and everything, he only talked with Cardullo. He didn't talk with anyone else at the business and anyone else he might be working with. So he only got one side of the story and made the decision from there. It may have been better if he had more exposure to other people as well and kind of figured out how everything was supposed to work, especially when Cardullo kind of started changing his stance and making things a little bit more confusing. But yeah, I think a lot of it is due to the communication or lack of communication, not having clear lines and being able to discuss well, expectations and feedback on how things are going.
Mm-hmm. Now that you bring that up, that highlights to me kind of how maybe Cardullo is a bit of a control freak and kind of wants his way or the highway. The fact that he didn't interview with anyone else but him. And then, Cardullo tells him that, yeah, this is what I want you to do, but then kind of, pulls back and then says, no, do it this way instead, and so I think it's, communication is huge. It just maybe there's just a personality conflict there that Jamie's not reading what Pat's intent really is. He tend to want to let go, but he can't let go. You know what I mean?
Yeah. In there, it also said, I'm trying to look for it, where he said it kind of seemed like he had the conclusion of Cardillo being like, if he likes you, he likes you. If you do something bad, then you're just on his bad side, and that's kind of it.
Yeah, he's kind of
And, you know, maybe that happened with something, and then, you know, he's not in his good graces anymore, and he's like, okay, yeah, you messed up, and I'm done with you, kind of thing. You know, that's not a good manager or a good management style, but it seems to be the way Cardillo is.
right.
And
Especially if
that
you
would be his
can be a
challenge.
mentor to him to replace him, you know.
Mhm.
Good point.
Yeah.
All right. So, how did Turner get himself into this predicament, and what is going on for Cardullo?
I don't think it's a problem necessarily, this first part at least, but he wanted to climb the ladder pretty quick. He was hopping around just to get more money, to get more benefits, to have more freedom, which, like I said, isn't a bad thing, but it led to it. But then I feel like the biggest red flags to me were in the interview process, like not meeting anybody. And there was just a couple other things in the case that I thought of. Whoa, why wouldn't you ask about that? A lot of times in interviews, you want to know how the like the environment is, and so that was one thing. I think that if he paid more attention in the interview process rather than just what was being offered salary wise, that he wouldn't be in the predicament, because it doesn't sound like he did a whole lot wrong in when he finally got to work there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in fact, it almost seems that it's in the reading as well. It's like later on he says he almost feels like he has too much freedom. So he's just making swings left and right and trying to make, you know, Cardillo happy, and he just doesn't seem to be doing the right thing. But there's so much available for him to do. He doesn't have the direction that he needs to be able to hone in on what needs to happen and do that right. He's, you know, guessing, is it needs to be this? Is it this direction? Is it another direction? And nothing seems to be working. He's just getting more and more frustrated about it. So he wanted, you know, all that kind of the freedom on it, but it seems like without like the proper direction from management, that much freedom can almost be a hindrance, just because you're not able to actually provide what they want to see, even though they're saying you just do what you need to do, but they have ideas of what they want to see.
Right.
Part of me. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Josh.
I was just saying the Turner didn't know what he wanted.
Yeah. Part of me wondered if when he was kind of like interviewing, the way that Cardullo was telling him, like, this is how it should work, like kind of telling him how he thought the business should run, was kind of his expectations in a way of what Jamie should do, or kind of like his outline. But I don't know if that was like how Jamie really saw it, or if that was just like, thanks for your opinion of this and whatnot. Kind of what I was thinking about is maybe that was his expectations of Turner, you know, of the suggestions that he made kind of when the interviewing was happening of how things should run. And then after that, kind of like Cardullo felt like he wasn't living up to that, or wasn't following his guidance in a way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think maybe he didn't set up the boundaries either. You know, when Cardullo was telling him, "Well, I need you to take over the sales too," and he's like barely gotten his feet wet with the marketing stuff. You know, sometimes you have to pull back a little bit, and even though you might want to jump in, you know, and do it all and be the hero, you know, that's not always what's best for you or even for the company, because obviously they still haven't gotten out of the situation that they're in.
Yeah, that is a tough situation for Jamie, just because, you know, through the read, it seems like Cardullo is kind of hard to read. He's, you know, he's all over the place. One time, he says, "Hey, you need to know what the margin is on this lamp," and then he kind of has a heart to heart with him on the plane. Is like, seems like he's kind of coming around, and then, you know, all of a sudden it says that plan doesn't pan out, and he's like, "What are you spending time on that for? It's not going to work." So he's definitely a moving target in trying to be someone that's readable, because you don't know what to expect from him. So that's probably a big frustration as well.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that kind of leads into the next question of what did Pat Cardullo and Jamie Turner each initially bring to the situation at MLI that would seem to ensure success or failure? Well, I think
I would
Pat he'd been there, he's the veteran, and so he knows the customers and he knows the process and everything. But, Jamie is fresh blood and can kind of see things from a different perspective because as of late, things haven't been working well. And so, going down and trying different strategies that Jamie was trying to propose could have been helpful to bringing them more success than what they were seeing.
Yeah, I would say Jamie had brought to the table, a lot of energy and dedication, and he's, we call him a single 30-something. He's not tied down with much else besides being able to just dive into the work, and so he definitely would have been able to work to provide results and everything. Had the right direction and a good mentor, or a better mentor than he had there. So he definitely had the potential to bring about some good things in the position.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think he had a lot of. I'm trying to find it in the case, but not only did he have a lot of, he was fresh blood, but he had decent experience, at least firm wise, maybe not years wise. But he also graduated near top of his class. He had an MBA. Like, it doesn't say, I don't think it said much about Cardullo, but Turner had a lot of academic accolades as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one thing that I think that I noticed was, he seemed to be very thoughtful in his process of, how is this going to affect this department, or how is this going to affect this person? Like when they were closing down the one sales office, he was just like, well, this person's husband just died and all that kind of stuff. It wasn't just he wasn't just looking at the numbers. He was really looking at everything as a whole, and what the ramifications of those decisions were going to be.
Yeah, he definitely has academic experiences, and the skills. You should have the skills to back it up. So it's not like he's stepping into a situation that he's just overwhelmed in. So I don't think that's an issue. It's just kind of an interpersonal issue between him and Cardullo.
Mm-hmm. So what were the key choice points where either of them could have done things differently?
I feel like if they talked more, they wouldn't feel like Cardullo's talking to other people about Jamie, or kind of the grudge that is being set within. I feel like if they would just have their meetings, or kind of like meet together and go over some of the issues regularly instead of like putting them off or stomping out of the meeting, I feel like that could solve a lot of problems instead of creating more within the work environment. But yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think Cardullo could be better off by stepping back a little bit. They kind of brought that up in the case as well, where he's going back and forth between the two headquarters. He's the president. But if he had worked a little bit more on delegating and given Jamie Turner more authority and the ability to make decisions and not feel like he's going to be reprimanded for every little thing, and just letting him take his division in the direction it needs to go, and Cardullo stepping back a little bit and letting his managers run how they need to run, I think that might have helped the situation out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I think Cardullo lets his emotions get the best of him, and the fact that he's kind of like an all or nothing personality, like you mentioned, he just kind of turns on you if he all of a sudden doesn't like you, and then you can't work together. And if he's a direct report to Pat. How is he going to be able to do what he wants them to do if they're not communicating and meeting on a regular basis to make adjustments where needed? All right, so how, if at all, should Turner approach Cardullo at the end of the case?
That's hard because, I mean, in the case it talks about how Cardullo obviously doesn't even want to fix stuff because he's not willing to meet with him.
Mm-hmm.
So in the case, I kind of got the drift that ton of others didn't love Cardullo that much either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the best way I would think is maybe if he's not willing to meet with him, like he's trying to catch him in the hallway maybe before work. Maybe if that doesn't even work, send an email. But I feel like whatever he does, he's got to do it somewhat quick because Cardullo is going to try and probably push it aside or dodge it again.
Right. Yeah, and those were the points that I raised, is that, he either needs to, cut him off at some point and just say, hey, we have to sit down and hash this out, or send him an email, kind of highlighting what needs to be resolved, and maybe even having, a whole board meeting with all the higher ups, and not necessarily pointing fingers, but just saying, hey, where are we going with this, and how can we get to where we want to go?
Yeah, something where they're kind of just setting the direction they want to take and defining actual responsibilities for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, like if Cardullo doesn't know the limits, it doesn't seem like he has a good grasp of what limits he should be running. And so there's a whole gray area that both of them are kind of crossing paths on and creating conflict there. So if they could make a definite decision on who does what and who focuses on what, and have like a meeting about that, I think that'd probably be helpful. It'd probably hit Cardullo's pride a little bit, since that's his company. He's the president. It seems like it's his baby. He doesn't really want to let anyone else really run it, but he needs to. So there's that, and that's something he has to deal with on his own, and come to terms with, at least. So that's another part of it.
And I think if they do that, they can build some trust amongst one another to be able to rely on each other to do what you say you're going to do, and once you know your responsibilities, you can kind of run with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Do you have anything else to add, anybody? I know we lost Landon. I don't know if he had to head to his next meeting. But,
yeah, I just got the impression that Cardullo is just running a little bit amok, making things a little bit more difficult than should happen, and Jamie's just trying his best to stay ahead of it in a new position, to say the least, too. So
yeah, and I think Jamie wants it to work. He just, he needs to. He and Cardullo just need to get on the same page.
Yeah.
And the mannerism of Cardullo isn't the best, foul language, just the way he kind of treats people, talks about people. But I mean, he's obviously successful because he ran Triple S. Was it $600 million company or something?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so he's obviously successful, and he knows that. I don't know if that plays a part in his.
Maybe, yeah.
So like he knows it all type of deal, and it's his way or the highway. But I feel like his professionalism is greatly affected because of the way he treats and talks and works around people.
Yeah, and it kills morale.
Yeah.
It's not very motivating. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think basically for Cardullo, he needs to come to terms with a new position that he's kind of assuming, rather than being the front man and running everything. He's kind of stepping back a little bit and letting someone else take the reins, but it doesn't seem like he really wants to let that happen either. Or if he does, it happens on his terms, and he has the exact same person he has in mind in the spot.
Yeah.
Which would be himself.
Right.
He needs a clone. Exactly.
All right, guys. Well, it's been great working with you this semester. Good luck to you all.
Yeah, thank you. Good working with you guys too.
Yeah, Merry Christmas.
Yeah, enjoy your holidays.
All right. Have a good night. Take care.
Yeah.
Bye.